What's up, government seekers? Welcome to Government Secrets, episode 159. We have an exciting program for you today, folks. We're going to talk about some fun. What? Wow. That's too much. That is a crazy echo. All right. We got that squared away. Sorry. Ugh. All right. There we go. Thank you for watching, everybody, on my YouTube, on Lee Camp's YouTube, and on the Rockfin. Like, share, subscribe, do all that fun stuff that helps support our program. I like saying program. And Patreon, we'll be doing a live bonus segment immediately following this one. That's at patreon.com/government secrets. It's also where you can get merch. It's the only place to get merchandise for Government Secrets people. And thank you to everybody in the chat. You can do super chats that support our show. Hello. Good to see everybody in the chat. Welcome to Planet Earth and YouTube. Absolutely. And everybody watching over on the Rockfin. Good to see you. All right. It is noon on the West Coast and 3:01 p.m. on the East Coast, or wherever you're watching in whatever part of the world. I am having a delicious iced tea. Made this yesterday. You make a pot of tea, guys. Have a little extra tea, pour it in a cup, put it in the fridge, bang, boom, you got iced tea, right? Or you can drink coffee like an animal, just a caffeinated animal, just all skittering around like a freak. Speaking of skidding around like a freak, let's do the show, guys. Let's do it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Government Secrets, episode 159, with the two most censored comedians in America, Lee Camp and Graham Elwood.
What's up, Graham? I don't know if you've ever had a rap name, but if you did, was it by chance technical difficulties? Because when you came on and the mic was fucking out, I was like, here we go again. This is it. Every show. Hello. And then the curtain falls down, and then the laptop closes, and then a mouse skitters by.
I don't know I don't know if I was cursed. I don't know if somebody put a hex on me. I don't know what it is.
Do you perhaps have an electromagnetic plate in your head?
There's that.
Okay.
I mean, there's definitely that. I walk around with a giant transmitter attached to me, and I don't know if that gets in the way of things.
That could be it. It could be it.
I have a nuclear fusion device that is next to my microwave. What's actually
go ahead.
It's a nuclear fusion microwave, so I don't know if that's causing any problems.
Might be. You do wear that tinfoil hat, but on your junk.
So oh yeah, well that's more of just a comfort thing. So
just a comfort thing. Yeah, well, it's to protect you from the nuclear fusion microwave.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark Dansky, for supporting our show. Yeah, there's a lot of buttons and things to click and go, and you know what I mean? And I can't get all of them,
So true. Can't click them all.
I can't click them all, Lee. And some of them unclick themselves because there's a haunted demons inside of things. So I don't know what to tell you.
Man, if this super chat rate keeps up, 2 in the first 2 minutes, we're going to make thousands of dollars this episode. Something tells me it probably will not. But thank you, Alex. Appreciate that.
You never know. Never say never, Lee. I mean, think about all the episodes where we didn't have, or specifically I didn't have any tech issues. Do you know what I mean? So there's
I'm thinking back. I'm going through. Which one were you referring to?
Of the 159,
Yeah.
there was one. There was one that didn't have some kind of tech thing.
And by the
Um,
way, I am counting sheets falling down as tech problems. That is up there. I'm counting shots of mattress cam. I'm counting that as a tech problem. I'm counting I'm counting
I don't
Nissan Leaf crashes as tech problems. It's all tech problems.
I don't know that the sheets falling down is a tech problem. I think that
It's a tech problem.
that's a tech issue. That is that is an attack by big tech on me. That was a conspiracy by big tech to it was basically a coup against the tape government that I had in place.
That's very true. Yeah. We are having some people vote for bringing back mattress cam, but I think mattress cam was the first name of fans only, wasn't it?
Mattress cam, I don't think mattress cam was any sort of tech issue. I think mattress cam was just a wonderful creative expression of the show.
Is that what it was?
That's what
Someone's got a good point though. It was Alexa Pearl said mattress cam could run as the VP on my Yard Rock presidential ticket. The rock I found in my front yard that's running for president.
That's a great ticket. I mean, that's a ticket I would vote for. I mean, mattress cam, I think has some of the best progressive policies that I've seen, so.
Well, we'll have people talk to people. We'll have Yard Rock's people talk to mattress cam people, and we'll figure it out.
Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you, Teresa, for the donation.
Speaking of amazing things that are happening, how about Alive Government Secrets in the beautiful city of Santa Monica, California, July 11th, Lee Camp?
Mattress may or may not be there.
If we can,
last time you walked in with a surfboard, you could walk in with a mattress.
I think if we can, I'm going to just see if I can, and it won't be hard in Santa Monica to just find a mattress on the street.
You'd have to ask the guy that's living on it. You got to get permission, Graham. All right. With consent, Graham.
I will. And I'll pay him. Well, I'm going to say, can we rent your home and use it on our stage? And I think if I can get a mattress to put on stage, I'm going to do that.
Well, it would be amazing if the curtains finally open, the show begins, and there's a mattress up there.
I'm amazed. Do you think we have the kind of a venue that has curtains?
Curtains, yeah. I was waiting for that. You're like, you do understand, literally, they move the middle table out of a Mexican restaurant, and that is, quote unquote, the stage. Quote.
Unless there's a quinceañera right before our show, I don't think there's going to be curtains, Lee.
They brought in their own stage. No, literally, if you'll have a stage if you leave the table in the middle of the room at the Mexican restaurant, and we can stand on that.
I'd like to know also how many shows you're doing that have curtains. I mean, where are you? What are you doing? The ballet?
I played some theaters with curtains, but well, here's the thing: is the last show we did in LA was actually on a gorgeous stage.
It was.
With curtains and everything else, and we ate our goddamn hat on that show, but it didn't look good. It looked legit.
There's nothing like doing an amazing show that you make $4 on. That's
I know. We sold a bunch of tickets. I'm not saying we didn't sell tickets. We sold a bunch, but it turns out that their deal is you actually have to sell out the room and then have people sitting on each other's shoulders in order to make some money. Thank you, Alex, again for the donation. Alex killing it this morning. This is a super jet waterfall that's going on. It's amazing.
Great. Mattress cam was the camera switching from the camera Graham spoke to into a random side shot barely with Graham. This is not a technical difficulty. No,
it's Alex on my side.
No, I'm sorry, Alex. This is a creative choice that I made as a filmmaker to tell a story.
It also explains why in the films Graham has directed, there were shots of mattresses against walls.
inexplicably that didn't move the story along at all and made no sense. But that's my choice as a director, as an auteur, Alex, and I resent that actually.
Graham actually directed a lesser known film called Mattress in Seattle.
Well, it was a whole trilogy. It was Mattress in Seattle. It was
You've got Mattress.
Yeah, don't stop or my mattress will shoot you. And then there was the Western 310 mattress camera to Yuma. I mean, that was the it was a really wonderful thing.
310 mattress to Yuma. Thank you, Jade. That's very kind of you. We got a big show today because Graham, you called me during the production meeting and you said it's been a while since we had a poop related story, and I said I can bring that, man. I'm on it. It's been, I think it was way back episode 25 when the CIA wired and used that top secret turd as a listening device against JFK. So
I love this this fantasy land we've created where we have production meetings and shows with curtains, and there's just all this amazing stuff happening.
We're building out. This is called building out the scene, Graham. We're building out the scene. We make. I mean, the fact that we make 10 grand an episode is amazing.
Oh yeah, it's all right.
Those 12 producers we have on the show, I think they're knocking it out of the park recently.
I know we're both in really expensive studios. We're not in our apartments or basements or whatever. Like, these are really fancy places.
I'm coming to you right now from Dubai. I honestly can't believe the success we're rolling in. It's pretty amazing.
I mean, my studio is so expensive. Literally, folks, you want it, you got it. There's
my mattress.
So there it is.
Folks, he didn't even ask. I feel like that could have been if I get $20 or $50 in super chats, I'll show the mattress situation.
Somebody wrote it's all crap here on Government Secrets. That's absolutely true.
Well, today more than normal, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, after our extensive production meeting with our team of producers, we came up with this.
Thank you, Jason, for the super chat.
Thank you, man.
I don't know. We're getting more donations for chit chatting. Maybe we should stay.
We should just scrap doing segments.
Yeah. When people settle into the segments, they stop throwing the super chats around. So,
being that our production meeting is like us texting each other going, I'm going to talk about this.
In fact, and thank you, Ahmed, for the donation. Solidarity. In fact, I'll say this: if we get $100 to super chats in the next 3 minutes, we won't do the first segment. you guys can stop this segment from coming.
If we get $200 in the next 3 minutes, I will do the rest of the show lying on my bed. Just
which, let's be honest, is how you probably always wanted to do the show.
I know, this getting into a chair and putting on pants is such an arduous task.
You put on pants. Is that more of the building out this fictional reality that you put on pants?
I actually came from a breakfast thing at the Producers Guild, so I had to wear pants. They're all like sticklers over there. So sick of people just trying to tell me how to live. You know,
I know, telling you how to live. Totally.
The no pants army. Somebody put in the chat.
Shave your knuckles for justice and don't wear pants. That's the end of the motto.
$250 segment on mattresses, on mattress no pants. Yes. Well, I guess the money didn't come in. I guess we got to do the show.
I guess we got to actually do the show now. Damn it. All right. So, I think mine's gonna be funnier. Do we want funnier first or second?
We should do funny second. Mine's not really that funny. It's
All right, let's bring
just
everyone down.
let's go. I know we've all been having a lot of fun, but that needs to end.
That stops now.
It's over.
You ever? It's like in high school when you have like a substitute teacher and everyone be just going nuts, and then the sub would let you guys keep going nuts for like 5 minutes and be like, all right, I know we're having a lot of fun, but it's time to settle down.
Yeah.
That's what this is right now.
It's the thing.
Thank you, Mark.
Yes. It's well, it's all right. So we'll get into it. Government secret segment number 1. We've talked several times on this show about ExxonMobil and what they've done and the studies that they've done.
Goddamn right.
That's right. Go to grahamelwood.com for tickets, everybody, to the July 11th show. You can buy tickets. It's limited seating. I mean, it's not a huge venue, so tickets are already going. People are buying tickets.
And you can actually get in cheaper if you order a chalupa. So just remember that.
Yeah, bring your own mattress and you get a discount. But we've talked about, oil companies and specifically ExxonMobil denying. You did a segment about how the first study actually goes back to 1958. There was a
dude. 50, 58, 59. It's insane.
It's insane. And we've also, I referenced on my show the 1977 ExxonMobil study, and then the other study that back then was Exxon. They had merged. But so I wanted to focus on the specific ways that Exxon funds climate denial and the companies that they use. They set up all of these companies and fake organizations. And I wanted to get into all of the ways that they just flat out lie.
Let's do it.
And again, there's all these articles on it that I could read, but I wanted to read you. This is in Wikipedia. And there's a Wikipedia page, ExxonMobil climate change denial. So it's one of these things. And the reason why we reference Wikipedia, because it's like, if any of us can just go find this on Wikipedia and just do a web search, why isn't this like a huge story for CNN, for MSNBC, why aren't they like, this should be a nonstop story? But, well, we know why.
Well, and yeah, speaking of that, I just want to say real quick, speaking of the nonstop story, is there's different ways that our mainstream media can cover something. Yes, CNN has done climate change segments. Yes, and even, of course, Fox News has done some saying that it doesn't exist, and ABC has done some saying it very much does exist, etc. But it really comes down to the amount they're covering these things. Like Trump, it's wall-to-wall Trump coverage, but you'll get like one report, if you're lucky, a month on climate change from CNN or something.
Right. Thank you, Don.
Dan.
Don. What's the difference?
To him, probably something. Grom. Okay, Grom.
If at this point I don't have a credit card, I shouldn't bother getting involved in that scheme. Right. Yes. So this is what I wanted to again, this is just a matter of public knowledge. This is all out here. From the 1980s to the mid 2000s, ExxonMobil was a leader in climate change denial. Now, from the 80s is right after they did that second study in the early 80s. And after the second study, using their own scientists that they hired, that they paid for, and the scientists came back and said, actually, it's worse than the 1977 study. That's when Exxon went, boy, should we talk about this? Nope, let's go hard pivot. And
should we reveal what we know to the public?
Yes, to the public. No, we're going to spend money to deny the research that we came up with. Just to show you, like, when I hear anybody, and this is a huge like frustration and that I have with the Bitcoin community. I'm a big Bitcoiner. There's a lot of conservatives who are like in the Bitcoin space who are like, the media lies about everything, including climate change. And I'm like, oh, you guys are this huge blind spot that if you're going to sit there and say, I don't trust the big central banks, I don't trust the government, I don't trust the media, but I trust the oil lobby propaganda.
Big oil. Yeah.
Those guys.
And big banks. Because, Bitcoiners hate no one more than the big banks. Big banks are big into funding these oil projects, invested in them, and lying about climate change.
And that's, they're inextricably connected with war, right? Because the petrodollar is a big part of why the big banks fund these wars. They fund the oil companies. So if you're a Bitcoiner, you have to wake up to this fact. And this is one of the ways I hope you will get it. The ExxonMobil was a significant influence in preventing ratification of the Kyoto Protocol by the United States. Exxon funded organizations critical of the Kyoto Protocol and seeking to undermine public opinion about the specific of the scientific consensus that global warming is caused by burning of fossil fuels. Of the major oil companies, ExxonMobil has been the most active in the debate surrounding climate change. According to a 2007 analysis by the Union of Concerned Scientists, the company used many of the same strategies, tactics, organizations, and personnel the tobacco industry used in its denials of the link between lung cancer and smoking.
They looked at that resume and they were like, we like the cut of your jib, sir. You were lying about tobacco for 50 years? All right.
Wow, you guys have been helping cause cancer and not telling people about it. Wait till you see our numbers. Like,
yeah.
We're really good at murder. The Exxon is funded, among other groups, the Competitive Enterprise Institute. Goodness. The George C. Marshall Institute. This is the Competitive Enterprise Institute is a non-for-profit libertarian think tank founded by political writer Frank Smith on March 1984 to advance principles of limited government, free enterprise, and individual liberty. So this is what they do is they exploit the sort of libertarian mentality of, I don't want the government in my business. Well, that sounds like a fine principle. We don't want the government telling us what to do. And they go, and the government's trying to take away your right to own a truck, and it's all a lie. That's what they do. That's how they propagandize that group. And they fund these groups to say, oh, the big government regulation. They just want to regulate everything. And it's like, well, so California, specifically Southern California, had a really bad smog problem in the 70s and 80s. And there was like brownouts and people were so they passed a lot of laws, a lot of regulation. And California has some of the strictest emissions in the United States, and if not the world. And it's obvious. I was, 2 months in El Salvador, which is a great country, but unregulated diesel fumes. I mean, it's just like the cars, no exhaust, no catalytic converters, no nothing. And it is especially driving in San Salvador, it's very noticeable. Like driving with your windows down is like, wow. So they funded all these other institutes. The George Marshall Institute is a conservative think tank established in 1984. The Heartland Institute is a 501c3 that's very libertarian. And it's known for its rejection of the scientific consensus on climate change and the negative health impacts of smoking. For both. The American Legislative Exchange is a non-for-profit organization of conservative state legislators and private sector representatives who draft and share model legislation for distribution among state governments in the United States. So why this is important is you see this sort of shell company infrastructure to funnel this money through to make it look like these are just regular American citizens that have had enough of this climate change hooey. No, they create non-for-profits. They're funded by ExxonMobil, a big, evil, awful corporation, to then fund policy. These lobby groups go to politicians and give them money and say, you need to pass this law or you need to block that law or whatever. This is how it's done.
Yeah, and they also have the big advantage that telling Americans to heavily shift the way their lives work or the way their, you know, income works or any kind of large shift like that is incredibly difficult.
Right.
And it's much easier to say, hey, we just keep going down this path, keep burning all the fossil fuels we want, keep the prices low, keep it going. And it's a lot easier to get people to believe whatever it puts them down that path rather than saying, hey, the entire planet's going to be fucked in a few years. So we need to change the way we live. People don't want to
Right.
hear that. They don't like it. And they don't think the big guy in the sky would do that to them.
Right. And it also, it's always like fear tactics. Usually, they're coming to take your fill in the blank away, your car, your rights, your whatever. And,
Yeah.
the harsh reality is species that don't evolve go extinct. So
My favorite fact to throw out there for anyone who still doesn't believe in man-made climate change is of peer-reviewed studies, 99.7%, it might be 99.9, but I think it's 99.7% of all peer-reviewed climate change studies show that it's absolutely happening.
yeah.
It's such a minuscule amount of peer reviewed. Now, you can find a YouTube video of a guy who says he's a scientist going, no, trees love it when we kill the planet. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about peer reviewed studies. It's 99.7% of all peer reviewed studies
Yes.
say this is what's happening.
Yes. From scientists from all over the planet. Like,
yeah.
And
one scientist made the point that it's not that climate change hasn't been studied enough. In fact, it's probably the number one most studied topic in the history of humanity because it has been studied so much. Yeah, they can't know every detail. They can't know how it'll impact the oceans and things like that, but they know it's happening.
Yeah. And then they'll come back and say, yeah, but electric cars are just as bad or whatever. And it's like, well, first of all, the electric car is not the lone solution for climate change. It's just like an interim step. There's
it's a Band-Aid to keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not. And, there's also, and I've done so many segments on this for my show, Political Vigilante. There's all of these things already in place. People have come up with all of these solutions to reverse climate change. They just need mass scale. They just need mass adoption. They need, and quite literally, mass funding rather than if the Federal Reserve is going to print money, rather than print money for wars and Wall Street bailouts, we could print money for green energy and green solutions that would actually give people jobs and could fix things.
I like the tone you used for that. I feel like it'd been me saying that sentence. I would have been like, rather than print money for wars, they should be printing money for.
Yeah.
Same idea though. You're absolutely right that like the solutions are out there. I mean, geothermal power exists, tidal power exists, wind power, solar power, and there's even a New York, I had it up the other day, a New York Times article saying China's making the switch to all of these things while the US isn't. And this was the New York Times saying that, an opinion piece saying that China may save humanity.
Yes.
This is the New York Times.
Yeah. I mean, there's stuff like I did a segment on my show about there's an algae that takes carbon out of the air, and cleans it. There's a mineral called Laveria that is readily available. It's very sustainable. And you put it on beaches and it looks kind of green. It would make the sand sort of green, and it captures the carbon and buries it in the ocean. It's a process that naturally occurs, but it takes about 1,000 years. This process can get it in about 2 years.
Get it down to 900.
No, 2 years. Jokes aside, two fucking years, man. Yeah. And all we got to do is just make our beaches green. That's it. And Like,
Yeah, but the green beaches wouldn't, like, the color dynamic wouldn't match with most of the suits. Most of the banana hammocks I have are more of a, like a mauve that might clash. For
no,
everyone listening to the podcast, I think Graham just had an aneurysm.
yeah. No, at least banana hammocks are pretty important. Between 1998 and 2004, ExxonMobil granted $16 million to advocacy organizations which disputed the impact of global warming. From 89 till April 2010, ExxonMobil and its predecessor Mobil purchased regular Thursday advertorials in the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Wall Street Journal that said the science of climate change was unsettled. And, those reputable...
Hold on, it's unsettling.
Yeah.
Is that what they mean?
And also, the thing that's great about those really honest news outlets, they took their money and posted their bullshit and just went, I don't know, we're not sure.
Yeah. Well, and New York Times, which has Chevron on their board of directors, which is one of the reasons that they never covered Steven Donziger, despite the fact he was locked up in his one-room apartment for 3 years with an ankle monitor on because he won a massive court case against Chevron. But they'll print giant ads, full-page New York Times ads that basically say Chevron is helping the planet. Like,
oh yeah, well that's the other thing too. All the oil companies do greenwashing, right? They all do those ads where it's like, Shell Oil is spending $20 million a year, and they always show that same photo of like windmills, wind turbines in a field.
The same stock image of just like windmills and Dutch people having a circle jerk,
and kids playing, with solar panels on their house in the front yard. Like they do that same ad, and if you look at their balance sheet, wow, they spent $20 million, a company that's worth $20 billion.
Yeah,
so
they fart $20 million.
Yeah, that from a percentage, it's like 1% of their annual revenue they spend on this. It's literally like,
it's actually, if 20 million of 20 billion would be a lot less than 1%.
Yeah, it's at 1/10 of 1%, I believe.
Yeah.
It's nothing. So, then an analysis conducted by the Carbon Brief in 2011 found that 9 out of 10 of the most prolific authors who cast doubt on climate change or speak against it had ties to ExxonMobil. Greenpeace has said that the Coke industry has invested more than $50 million in the past 50 years on spreading doubts about climate change. Yep. Since the 70s, ExxonMobil and its predecessors have engaged in climate research focusing on global warming from the late 70s and through the 80s. Exxon funded internal and university collaborations broadly in line with developing public scientific approach. A review in 2023 found that the global warming projections documented by the models created by ExxonMobil's own scientists, this is what we've talked about, between 1977 and 2003 had accurately projected and skillfully modeled global warming due to fossil fuel burning and had reasonably estimated how much CO2 would lead to dangerous warming. The authors of the paper concluded, yet whereas academic and government scientists worked to communicate what they knew to the public, ExxonMobil worked to deny it.
Yeah, they knew, man. And I don't, if you'll allow me, I don't think I've played this before. I'm going to play 1 minute of the Shell Oil video that Shell Oil made in 1991. And then after they made it, so they went to all the trouble to research, write, produce, film this video that was going to be released to the public. And after they made it, they decided, you know what? That's not so good for us. So they never aired it.
Oh.
With adverse consequences for us all. The moon. In shadow, its surface temperature drops to minus 150 degrees Celsius. In sunlight, it rises to over 100. Virtually at the same distance from the sun, temperatures on Earth are much less extreme, and we owe this life-giving fact to its atmosphere, in particular to the presence of the so-called greenhouse gases.
All right, you get the point. But they really made that in 1991. And then they were like, this is not good for our business model.
Yeah. And in conclusion, in April of 2014, ExxonMobil released a publicly acknowledging climate risk for the first time. ExxonMobil predicted that a rising global population, increasing living standards, and increasing energy access would result in lower greenhouse gas emissions. In 2015, it expressed support for a carbon tax. In 2015, the New York Attorney General launched an investigation whether ExxonMobil's statements to investors were consistent with the company's decades of extensive scientific research. In October 2018, based on its investigation, ExxonMobil was sued by the state of New York, which claimed the company defrauded shareholders for downplaying the risk of climate change. Yeah, that's the most important. Let's make sure the shareholders let's not, so what if we, human race goes extinct, but let's make sure the shareholders are squared up and taken care of.
It's like the people who had lost their slaves when slaves were freed and they got paid off. Apparently the average British taxpayer was still paying families, descendants of slave owners up to the year 2015. They were still paying them for losing their slaves.
That's great.
Same idea.
Good work, boys.
Good work.
So that's the history. And I just want to point out, whenever you hear about these names of these companies, Heartland Institute, American Legislative Exchange, there's even more of them like that Exxon didn't fund, but other companies like the American Petroleum Institute. Then there's my favorite, Friends of Science. That was funded by Canadian oil companies. And they
not scientists, just friends of science.
Science.
I met a scientist once, so I'm going to say I know what's happening.
And they did this woman that I then do a parody of called Granny Petrol that, responded to Greta Thunberg's letter from like 6 years ago, saying oil is amazing. It helps children grow or whatever. It's just insane. It's a maddening. And she's standing in front of a fake fireplace. It's fantastic.
If you rub it on your nipples, it'll help breastfeeding.
Yeah, it's really that insane. But yeah, that's our friends at ExxonMobil murdering the planet and lying about it.
And you mentioned earlier the petrodollar, but I really rarely hear anyone talk about this, that the U.S. has a massive motivation to always keep as much fossil fuels pumping as possible, because the worth of our entire dollar is sewn in to the petrodollar. So the U.S. would never want to do anything that would risk harm to the dollar.
Yep. So now Lee Camp's segment number 2 about the secret weapon of the Civil War.
And I think I already gave it away that it is poop.
Were you smoking weed when you found the segment?
Nope. Did it totally sober, Graham. I also thought that it might slightly annoy you, which is another high marks for a topic.
Just for that, I'm going to tape up my background so it'll fall in the middle of the show.
So let's see. I'm trying to say, I have 2 articles here. I'm trying to decide which one to start with. Disease in the Civil War. So this makes a great point that this article is from EssentialCivilWarCurriculum.com. Most readers of the American Civil War have the impression that the soldiers of the time suffered chiefly from wounds and amputations. Right? When you read your history books, and we study the Civil War a lot in in my classes in public school in Richmond, Virginia, mostly because they were busy telling us the Confederacy, was fighting for the side of good. But you always see, like, they'd show these soldiers, paintings or whatever of soldiers fighting, some photos, black and white photos of these soldiers nobly fighting. And that was not most of what killed soldiers. But yet you see mainly pictures, if you're going to see like harm done to Civil War soldiers, mainly pictures of amputations, wounds, prosthetic devices. And back then medicine was not good. So if someone lost an arm, they just like sew a cat on there or something.
They sew a cat. They have
Duct.
a cat arm.
Just- Well, then you can claw the other guy, if he gets too close to you.
So this is like some sort of Saw film or something?
Yeah. They just sew whatever they had nearby onto the guy, Thank you, duly noted, for the donation.
Thank you.
Solidarity. So, but this is what you see in the photos and the paintings and the drawings and the truth, which largely did not get recorded, is partially because it doesn't make for as good photos, right? Like if you're going to show the Civil War, showing a guy squatting in the bushes going, "Oh, this is coming out hard." Like, that's not really what you want to see when you think of these grand wars that were fought. The guy, knee deep in horse manure, vomiting out his lungs.
He had dysentery or whatever, right?
Yeah. And the article makes the point that there were no video cameras, obviously. And so, there were very few even photos or anything of people with diarrhea, vomiting, sweating, delirium, coughing exhaustively, bedridden with rheumatism or abscesses. And of course, they were all lousy with lice. They were covered in lice and bed bugs and everything else and disease. And, those aren't the fun photos in your history books.
Yeah. I don't remember seeing that when I went on a field trip to DC when I was like 13 or whatever.
Yeah. Like a sculpted marble, the sculpture of just like a pile of feces.
Just a guy doubled over, just
the shelves inside glass cases of Civil War toilet paper.
Just here's a statue in Philadelphia of Dysentery Dan, just barely getting by.
Moreover, it says the role of surgery in the war, authored by, wait for it, surgeons, dominated medical writing available to the public. So surgeons were writing what they were doing in the war, which was not, high-fiving a guy while he had diarrhea. That wasn't most of their job. So, the armies who fought in the U.S. Civil War were comprised largely. So then it gets into why disease, and I'm going to give you some of the numbers in a bit about just how horrific disease was in the Civil War, and the armies who and part of the reason why was the armies who fought in the U.S. Civil War were comprised largely of Caucasian males who grew up in relative isolation on farms, not having experienced the common diseases of childhood. The new soldiers fell prey to them as adults. What do you want to bet the Native Americans were laughing hysterically through all this? Well,
they were just like, why are you guys such animals?
Well, and also they're like, oh, the disease getting you? That's really bad. That's too bad. That's too bad.
Yeah. Thoughts and prayers, guys.
Thoughts and prayers. General Robert E. Lee wrote his wife in August 1861, the soldiers everywhere are sick. The measles are prevalent throughout the whole army. Regarding field conditions and overriding military concerns, unsanitary conditions were common during the war. There were frequent references to and this is perhaps one of my favorite expressions or phrases we've ever said on the show. There are frequent references to the interplay of flies, fingers, feces, and food. Wasn't that that was your high school band, right? Flies, fingers, feces, and food.
Yeah. We had a little tour going on. It was really fun. We had a good show.
little tour, and each audience member got to choose which of the 4 Fs they partook in.
And we sold all of those things as merch.
Yeah, especially a lot of fingers. So let me skip over to the actual numbers, and I'll come back to that in a second. But let's see. So here's an article. Now, the reason there's more numbers from the Union Army because a lot of the Confederate Army's numbers burned up in the Great Fire of Richmond. But so in table 2 on this chart, it's causes of death of the Union Army. Killed in, and I'm just going to skip the officers and just focus on the sheer number of men, but killed in action, almost 63,000. Died of wounds, 41,000. Died of disease, 221,000 people.
Oh my God.
So disease way outnumbered other forms of death. And then there's several others like, killed after capture, executed, suicide, but those are much smaller. So really it was disease, like killed well over half of all deaths in the Union Army. And the same was true for the Confederate Army, even if we don't have all the exact numbers. Here are the percentages. When you break that down by percentage, nearly 63 of all Union fatalities were due to disease. And the Union Army, a lot more people were killed in the Union Army or died during the Civil War in the Union Army than in the Confederacy, because really one of the ways that the Union Army won was just by sheer numbers of men. They had more men and they just threw them at the problem. So even if it was basically a terrible idea where they knew they were going to lose a lot of men, they just kept storming straight into the oncoming fire, which was how they ultimately won. They just had more men and defeated them that way, or one of the big ways. But just unbelievable numbers of people dying from disease. And this is not the story you get at all from your history books. It's all about fighting bravely. And so here's some more reasons that that disease was so much of was the number one killer. Joseph Jones, the Confederate surgeon inspecting the Andersonville stockade in Georgia, Sumter County, Georgia, wrote of one stream filled with, quote, the filth and excrement of 20,000 men. The stench was disgusting and overpowering. Joseph Woodward, another surgeon, U.S. Army, documented the same breaches of sanitation in camps. In great armies in times of war, personal cleanliness is often non-existent. The men are unwashed, their clothes filthy, bodies full of vermin, and heaps of garbage lie about. Especially needed was policing the latrines. The trenches, too shallow, not the requisite 5 feet that they supposedly required. Daily covering of the latrine with dirt is entirely neglected. Large numbers of the men will not use the latrines, but instead any clump of bushes and any fence border. So they're all shitting and pissing everywhere. It's just, and I feel like it's easy to think like, oh, that's not a big deal until you picture 20,000 men walk like in a tiny corridor, in a tiny area, all just shitting and pissing everywhere.
Horrifying.
Absolutely. Just animals. We're animals. It's just disgusting. All because you want to have slaves.
I know there's so many levels of depravity.
Yeah. And so this one, although the other article makes the point that germ theory was not fully accepted and these studies were not fully done until after the Civil War, it became far more commonly accepted. So that's one of the reasons that they didn't think, living in a pile of shit seemed fine. I'd argue Donald Trump still lives that way, but
no, he looks really healthy in those court photos. I mean, he just looks like he's like out of his mind. Either he's like has a tanning salon or a face tanner, and he looks like he's just eating like, barbiturates and Wendy's or whatever he's, like.
I would like to take a little tangent just to mention that all 3 of the top presidential candidates have brain damage. RFK Jr. recently admitted or claimed that a parasite ate part of his brain, and that doctors told him that. Now, other experts on those types of parasites say that it likely did not eat part of his brain, because most parasites don't eat your brain, but that the immune response to a parasite in the brain is to kill it and turn it into a cyst, and the cyst then causes brain damage. And so that's what likely happened to him. But so that's RFK Jr. Joe Biden, we know, is, cranking his dementia up to 11.
Yeah.
And then you got whatever's swimming around in Donald Trump's head. A lifetime of Dexatrine or whatever the diet pills are he's high on. He's been
Adderall.
drinking Adderall, Coca-Cola, and Big Macs. I mean, that guy is just completely corrupted his brain in about 7 different ways. So all 3 top, in terms of percentage right now, presidential candidates have brain damage.
And all 3 of them, coincidentally enough, all support Israel's genocide.
All support genocide, yeah. So it really is fun to have such a bubbling and exciting democracy.
We're getting our best of the best. That's what we got. The best people.
The best of the best always run for president.
Always. That's just the 2 parties. We scour the whole country, 330 million people, and find the best. The best.
It'd be like if you were scouring the country for the best basketball players, and you just took, a guy like living on a farm he has 0 legs on his body, and you take another guy who just is blind and doesn't have any hands. You take the guy with the cat sewn onto his arm, and I'm not trying to be insulting to any of those people, but in the NBA, statistically speaking, blind people are not heavily represented. It's just a fact. So, so I'm just saying it'd be like taking those people and saying these are the best basketball players, these 3 in the nation, and never having them play basketball.
Never. Just 3 guys, and then the best option is then there's somebody comes in as a guy who's 5'3", and he's 150 pounds overweight, and at least he's got arms, those are the
he's got arms, he's got at least one functioning eye, and you're like, well, that's the guy then. Yeah.
If we did pro sports the way we did up our politics, every one of these pro sport leagues would be unwatchable. It would be.
I mean, I think it sounds pretty funny, but it sounds kind of like a good time.
It does. Yeah. Well, you'd be watching for different reasons.
So, all right, to get back away from the tangent, to put the train back on the tracks. So one article said germ theory was, not really proven until after the Civil War. But this article says that this, horror show of disease was not because the relationship between sanitation and disease was unknown at the time of the Civil War. That lapses in sanitation occurred. The sanitary reform movement preceded the war. So although they hadn't proven germ theory yet, most people understood that being dirty had a connection to festering wounds and being sickly and stuff. There was an understanding there.
I feel like the no bathing and lice connection was probably pretty quick to realize.
Yeah, probably. And the getting crabs and Margaret connection. So, sorry, did you ask about my college years? So,
this is quite revealing in a very disturbing way, but
I knew this would be your favorite segment I've ever done. So,
yeah, can we make this a 3 or 4 parter league? Can we just hear about this for the next month?
We absolutely can. I have not gotten into yeast infections yet.
Oh God. Oh my God. Yeah, just more bowel talk, rectum. That'd be great.
Graham, why don't you want to learn what happened to the brave men in the Civil War? It's really unpatriotic of you.
It really is. It's my fault. I'm a bad American that I don't want to talk about lice and disease all goddamn day.
Not all day. It's another 10 minutes. So one reason for the poor sanitation was actually the lack of discipline in the many camps, perhaps because surgeons were not aware of the implications for health, or were busy with, amputating an endless number of limbs. Maybe surgeons were too overwhelmed, no matter how much help was sought or received, to ensure the daily burial of dead horses and their dung. I'll get to that in a moment. The unbelievable mountains of shit, which until now I thought was just White House press conferences. But unbelievable mountains of animal shit. But let's see. Attention to the shocking prevalence of poor sanitation is one reason the U.S. Sanitary Commission, a non-governmental agency, was formed and approved by President Lincoln early in the war. Didn't seem to have much effect, though.
Someone in the chat wrote, "Smells like patriotism."
This smells like U.S. empire right here.
It does. This is what the greatest country in the world smells like. Piles of human and animal feces.
A telling reference to camp conditions in Cairo, Illinois. Isn't that your home state, Graham?
Yes.
In the same USSC report reads, quote, "The horses and mules are invariably kept too near the camps, and the daily removal of their dung is a myth dreamed of only by the authors of the Army regulations and the Sanitary Commission inspectors." A myth. It was not uncommon for an army of 50,000 men to be accompanied by 15,000 horses and mules, with the latter excreting 30 pounds of feces each day. So that's like what? 450,000 pounds of shit every day. And none of it's being dealt with.
That is horrific. That is 500,000 pounds of shit. That is...
Which was Antony Blinken's high school nickname.
He was on the horse manure drill team, I think, if I wasn't mistaken.
500,000 pounds of shit. Obviously, it says... undoubtedly, a final factor was the recognition by several observers that neat, clean camps had the same number of ill soldiers with the same illnesses as dirty, unkempt camps. Obviously, if hand washing by troops and surgeons had been recognized as a singularly critical activity in preventing and controlling disease, the results might well have been different. So, yeah, hand washing was not a thing. Even if there was some recognition of, like, don't live in a pile of shit, there was not really hand washing at that point. So yeah, disease killing well over like 60% of every death during the Civil War. And you don't really get that side of American history.
I got to tell you, no, I've never studying this in high school. We never talked about the 6-figure pounds of shit that was being emanated from these
every day. Yeah, and I mean, there is that one bronze statue, I think, in Georgia somewhere, of the Confederate soldier, pants down, just shitting out a river. Just explosive diarrhea. There is that one bronze statue, but that is really it. Like, there's not... Most soldiers are seen on horses.
Yeah, it's that scene where he's just shitting into a river and he's saluting Stonewall Jackson, I think, is what is happening.
It also goes to, if we just throw one more fact, it also goes to how little the rulers of this empire, even back then, I mean, it wasn't an empire back then as much, but the rulers care about the lowly officer, lowly average men. It was basically like, how many do we have? Well, 100,000. Well, how many will survive the year? Maybe 50,000. Good enough. Like,
yeah. keep sending more guys, recruit them. I mean, this is also too one of the things that they were doing. They were, well, the Union Army was grabbing people off of getting off the boats at Ellis Island, like British soldiers and Irish, and saying, "Here, you automatically become an automatic citizen if you go fight in this war." And it's like, okay. So we were just like,
do you want this citizenship card and to live in a pile of horseshit? Follow me.
do you want to have a 30% chance of survival in a nightmare, in a roaming nightmare? Here you go.
I bet you some of them were like, I literally moved to this country to get out of a pile of shit.
Yeah. But now you get the American pile of shit, which is so much better.
It is. Their diarrhea ran red, white, and blue.
I was going to eat after this episode. I feel like no.
Good thing you didn't eat before.
Is that it? Is that the end of the
That's all of the bodily fluids I could come up with for this segment. So
is it like the War of 1812? We lost that war because guys were just shooting too many hot loads all over the place. Is that how that war went down?
Yeah, there was the hot load gate of War 1812. Absolutely. It's a lot easier to take down all the soldiers when they're rubbing one out.
Yeah, they could have won, but these guys are just like hot loading it, just playing cookie and just going nuts. Well, that was an amazing segment of bodily fluids by Lee Camp.
Listen, do you want the government secrets or not, Graham? You saying this should remain a secret? Do you want the truth? You can't handle the truth.
I want the truth, Lee. However filthy and disgusting and appetite losing it is, I really want to hear it.
We started this show because you wanted the truth, and now you're telling me, oh, forget the truth. Go back to saying everything in the Civil War was nice, and everyone had their own personal bidet that traveled with them. And
can't we just do a nice, easy segment about a lost nuke that could kill us all rather than this dirty diarrhea river you're so fond of talking of?
See, this is why I celebrate June 16th every year as the Diarrhea Day. And I salute the hundreds of thousands of men who died from disease in the Civil War.
We salute you, Diarrhea Teenth, for all of your sacrifice.
Hey, folks, we're doing an extra segment. If you haven't gotten enough, an extra segment over at patreon.com/government secrets. I guarantee it will be at least 12% less disgusting.
I don't know. I'm going to try to find a This Week in Government Secrets that involves vomit or boogers or something like that, just to keep it going.
I feel like we haven't focused enough on pus. Graham's favorite is always the pus segment.
You're like the guy at the high school lunchroom table that would just deliberately try to say gross things so people would not want to eat. Like, were you that guy in high school? Right as someone was like,
I'm really not. Hence why I haven't had a diarrhea segment before now. But, I waited, 160 episodes to get here. So,
folks, this is the kind of wonderful stuff you're going to get over at patreon.com/government secrets. And if you're in the great city of Los Angeles, July 11th, get your tickets for Government Secrets Live. It is at grahamelwood.com. There is a early bird special. The tickets are a little bit cheaper if you buy them before May 31st.
And you get an omelet.
And you get and a sombrero. It's a sombrero made out of an omelet that you can eat. So
yes, you get cheaper tickets if you buy them soon. It is up at my site, but my website kind of sucks, but it's up at leecamp.com. If you go to the schedule tab, you can get tickets there. But I also, this weekend, Saturday, and then the following Wednesday, I have my Zoom comedy special that anyone can watch from anywhere in the world. And that's $5. But come see us live in LA, July 11th.
Yeah, it'll be awesome. It is only our second ever live show in the United States.
Oh my God, Lexa Prohl, are you actually going to be at the show? She says she's not going to wear her omelet hat, though.
Yes, don't bring your own omelet hat. That's just in bad form.
Well, don't wear the band shirt to the show. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
So don't wear your omelet hat to the don't wear your diarrhea-laden pants to government secrets, just like you wouldn't wear the band shirt to the show.
So I guess now we have to do some sort of LA themed diarrhea segment for that show. Is that
I still haven't gotten the planning phone call on the bingo cards, so I don't know.
Oh God, that's right. I got to look in. I've been trying to look into that. Oh fuck, this sounds like one of those great ideas.
It's one of those great ideas that I'm leaving on you.
Oh, great. Thanks. All right. All right. Yeah, go to grahaml.com or leecamp.net.
.com.
leecamp.com or grahaml.com for tickets to July 11th. Go see Lee's Zoom show this weekend. And support us at patreon.com/government secrets. This has been Government Secrets episode 159. Shit Canal and ExxonMobil.
All right. See you soon. Patreon.com/government secrets.
We'll be over there in like 2 minutes. Thanks, everybody.